On November 4th, we traveled to Shady Valley, Tennessee, about an hour away from Boone, to visit and explore a mountain bog. A mountain bog is land at a high elevation that is saturated for the majority of the year. The Nature Conservancy of Tennessee owns a piece of land called the Orchard Bog, which is at 2,800 feet above sea level.
In expanding what we're doing here, right down in this area down in here, I was showing the one, I can't remember your names if you told me tonight, that we come out down in here, is an area that we got in there where we got a natural cranberry bog and also the bog turtle winters in there. He's picked up a place or two, or they have out on it, some are wetlands now where some of them is a winter. They've actually got it developed enough to where small families of them, like 4 or 5 or 6 is winter, and other than all of them coming back to the original.
Charles McQueen, the Shady Valley Preserves manager, took the time out of his day to give us a tour of sections of the 169-acre preserve. Charles and his bog dog Lassie led us around the creeks and marshes and showed us the preservation work the Conservancy has done over the years, as well as the native plant and wildlife. Part of this conservation area encompassed both artificial and natural cranberry bogs, which Charles led us through. We saw these native cranberries, plus sphagnum moss, and lots of wetland plant life.
Like, it just looked like it was flat. It looked like it had some paper covers, and I put my foot in it.
We walked straight through the marsh, and Charles pointed out the cranberries growing naturally in that part of the swamp.
This is a natural. Just like they grew right over us. I was trying to find some place here where we got to miss some somewhere. I know we didn't pick them up. That's what I mean. These are the ones over there out of the bed, either one. They're all we thought I brought like a container and stuff. I knew we were going to be collecting stuff.
Leaving the cranberry marshes, we moved on to another section that is being restored. We were shown a variety of spruce and pine species that are native to the area, as well as the new waterways that conservationists like Charles are trying to help make a comeback. In the 60s, farmers drained most of the bogs to use the land for crops, leaving only around 10 acres left. A consequence of this drainage was the reduction in wildlife in the area.
I have to look twice. Right over in there, some more of it. Where the green is, I'm sure that's not multiflora road.
Yeah, I got a picture.
Before they dredged the creek back in the late 60s, early mid 60s, this water was just basically running right on top of the ground. The creek here probably wasn't more than 3 or 4 foot deep, almost up here. We'd have been up above where we're standing here. Yeah.
The plants in this ecosystem are very diverse and widespread. They can go from types of trees to carnivorous plants to plants that are deadly to the touch.
Financial end of things. They do their own investment of their funds, monies and stuff. Typically, I don't know what it is now.
Here we can see a regular cranberry being picked by Taylor. These are edible for humans and other animals, such as our companion for the trip. This is a stem of cotton grass, which is very widespread throughout the world and can be found in many types of habitats. Here we can see Connor holding a piece of one. Here is some sphagnum moss growing over top of some grass. This particular type is one of over 300 types of sphagnum moss. There are only minute differences between this type and others. They must be looked at under a microscope to be able to distinguish the types. Here's a red spruce, which looks very similar to a Christmas tree, but they are different. They lost all the full-grown red spruce trees in that area, and Charles had to collect seeds from one so he could start to replant and help restore the spruce population.
They drained it, and we've got roughly 20% of it restored. One of the other things, we've lost all the full-grown red spruce.
Mm-hmm.
The license fell a few years back, and
Yeah,
we collected some seed from it. And I took some over to, forgot what, in the law or something, over in North Carolina, over and out of.
These trees can live up to 400 years old if the conditions are right. All the treetops in the mountain wetlands can live very close together and do not separate by type. All these types of trees, hemlock, white pine, and spruce, just to name a few, can grow to be very tall heights compared to the other plant life in this area. The common winterberry is a red berry that can grow on bushes that will grow up to a few feet tall. These berries can be enjoyed by animals, but when ingested by humans, can kill them. Apparently, though, some Native Americans had medicinal uses for them. Mountain laurel is a flower, but is very deadly to several animals, including humans. Native Americans used to use these leaves to reduce pains from cuts by making an infusion and mixing them in with water. In swampier areas, there are plants such as cattails growing in the waters, like they do in other types of swamps. Other areas of the wetlands don't have completely saturated grounds and possess more marsh-like conditions rather than just standing water. St. John's wort is a shrub type of plant that is found in some wetter environments and pretty much has the same look throughout the whole year. This plant has a lot of uses in homemade remedies for many different illnesses. While these plants can be deadly, some of them have healing abilities and can be used in real-life problems. Also, some of these trees and larger rooted plants help keep the soil integrity and help the whole ecosystem from being just one giant swamp.
Some of the wildlife species that are highly associated and adapted to living in an area such as mountain bogs are bog turtles, golden-winged warblers, meadow voles, bog lemons, and meadow jumping mice. Reflecting on the fact that these areas are inclusive of small bodies of water, multiple varieties of salamanders are the predominant population of amphibians that live and breed amongst these boggy conditions. During our travel to Orchard Bog Preserve in northeastern Tennessee's Shady Valley, we unfortunately didn't come into contact with any species in their primal habitat, but our tour guide Charles McQueen informed us of the animals that are sheltered at the Orchard Bog Preserve. First and most importantly, the rare bog turtle. Bog turtles are perhaps the smallest turtle breed that can be found in the United States and are easily identifiable by the patches of orange found along the side of their heads. The current bog turtle population is unknown, but can be estimated in the range of 2,500 to 10,000. Two factors, aside from illegal hunting of the turtle, that are detrimental to the turtle's health and survival are global warming and invasive plants such as the purple loosestrife. Global warming ultimately disrupts the hydrological cycles and either dries out or floods the turtle's habitat. Plants, such as the purple loosestrife, grow rapidly in clumps that are impassable by the turtle restricting its movement. This small turtle species are omnivores, feeding on a wide variety of small invertebrate and vertebrate animal prey as well as seeds, fruits, herbs, grasses, sages, and shrubs. The second animal, or rodent, that is prevalent in the Shady Valley Orchard Bog Preserve is the beaver. In some areas, beavers play a significant role in shaping the hydrologic and vegetative conditions of wetlands, such as a mountain bog. The involvement of beaver life and activity impact mountain bogs in both a negative and positive manner. Beaver impoundments may commonly kill bog plants and rare species by deconstructing their resources to live and using them to rebuild, which results as being beneficial for bog turtles and other species in the process. Though we were not able to see the beaver present in its habitat, we stumbled across a dam that was built in a creek fit enough to occupy approximately 3 to 4 beavers.
Keep them patched up. They undertake to patch the big creek over here too, with the water flow in and out. It looks like we got it. Pretty hard.
You know exactly like the relationship between kind of like beavers and the dams that they create with
Turtles, as far as I know, most, well, I won't say all, most of the one we have around here, the snapping turtle and the bog turtle both really benefits from the wetlands. And the snapping turtle is, I've been told to take all them out in her in around anywhere we got the bog turtles, because they'll eat the little turtle. Snapper turtle. He's the mean, hateful little rascal.
In the aspect of habitual meals, beavers are strictly herbivores. They enjoy eating vegetation such as twigs, foliage, bark, and aquatic plants. Finally, the last animal that found habitat in the Orchard Bog Preserve was the salamander. In wetlands and mountain bogs, there are a wide variety of salamanders that can be listed as mole, four-toed, marbled, three-lined, and spotted salamanders. These amphibians require smaller bodies of water, preferably without fish, for breeding purposes. Due to the colder climate, the salamanders were not visible in the water at this specific preserve as they were bogged underneath the bottom of the surface, which is a tendency for them during the fall and winter seasons. Any specific threats, excluding the threat of global warming, are easily accessible and treatable for the salamanders, comparatively speaking to other native species that reside in wetland areas. Salamanders of this nature tend to feed on mosquito eggs, insect larvae, and tadpoles. As said before, we unfortunately did not get the opportunity of seeing any active species that reside in the Orchard Bog Preserve during our visit, but were informed of what lives within the confinement of the many acres of land in this preserve and had an amazing experience that gave us a personal view of a mountain bog in reality.
Would warm up a degree or two, and now then it actually has held its own.
Mountain bogs make the water downstream cleaner. Mountain bogs act as natural filtration systems to protect the water upstream. Silt and pollutants are filtered out of the water by moss and other flora. This makes the water downstream of a mountain bog a lot cleaner and have less pollutants. Not only do mountain bogs clean water, but they also prevent flooding and erosion as well. This is because mountain bogs are water control during times of drought and flooding. During drought, it adds excess water back into the springs, and during times of flooding, it catches the excess water. This makes the area surrounding the mountain bogs have cleaner water that is well controlled during times of drought or flooding. Bogs and other similar wetland also provide food for many rodent environments such as raccoons, beavers, muskrats, and birds such as woodcock and waterfowl. During the winter, bogs provide fresh food for plant-eating animals who have left their normal habitat since the food they would normally eat has long died off. Without the mountain bogs, many organisms and species would not have a place to call home. Many of these species can only thrive in a mountain bog, so without them, these species would most likely be extinct. As you can see, without the mountain bogs, the water in the areas surrounding it would be dirtier and uncontained during times of flood or drought. Animals that live in the mountain bogs would not have a home and would most likely not be able to survive elsewhere. Animals in surrounding areas would also have a hard time finding food during the winter. Considering that mountain bogs are some of the rarest organic communities in the southern Appalachians, they are subject to threats such as government development, invasive species, and climate change. The largest threat of the mountain bog community is destruction of the habitat in order to construct roads, housing, and other developments. Invasive species and plants are indeed a potential risk for the community, as it increases the competitive nature for the native endangered species and depletes the natural organic soil for the native plants. This affects many species, but most importantly, the bog turtle. The wetlands of Shady Valley are the only known location in Tennessee where North America's smallest turtle still thrives in the wild. Many of these populations are struggling to sustain themselves due to their habitats being destroyed, as well as having to coexist with cattle, horses, and humans. Thankfully, conservation efforts have helped the number of bog turtles slowly rise in recent years. These conservation efforts to help protect the turtle are aimed at protecting their homes. The reasoning for these turtles' numbers dropping drastically is due to the lack of nesting ground. Without these nesting grounds, the turtles' eggs are eaten by predators. With the mountain bog's conservation efforts growing bigger, the area the turtles live in will slowly come back, as will the turtles. There have been many conservation efforts in recent years to try and make sure the mountain bogs will be sustainable for years to come. At the Nature Conservancy, we visited the Orchard Bog Preserve. Many efforts are focused on protecting the mountain bogs of the area. Efforts to return the bogs have included collection and analysis of hydrologic, vegetation, and soil data to determine which parts of the landscape would best respond to conservation back to their pre-ditching wetland state. Then comes the construction plans detailing how ditches will be filled and how to replant native vegetation like ferns and grasses. All of this began in 1999 after 2 acres of former farmland was bought by the government to begin conserving the mountain bogs of Shady Valley. Their first task began when conservationists started a controlled burn to eradicate fescue and orchard grass, an invasive plant species. After the burn, the area was replanted with big blue stem, little blue stem, and Indian grasses. These grasses are more commonly found in mountain bogs that have not been affected by outside forces. The new grasses and the conservatory was a huge success, leading to increased plant and animal diversity, as well as increased numbers of birds living on the conservancy. After this, an additional 62 acres were bought by the conservatory with the mission to protect the mountain bog biome. Our tour guide, Charles, assured us that this land had been bought only by willing sellers and has never been forcibly taken from farmers or other people who did not want to lose their land. While on our visit, Charles showed us many plant species that had been replanted in the area due to the conservation efforts since the new grasses were planted. Charles showed us many red spruce tree saplings that had just begun to grow in the bog after he retrieved the seeds from burned down trees. The Tennessee Orchard Bog has recorded a state record amount of Appalachian hedge nettle. The plant is endangered, but is slowly starting to grow in numbers. This all came from an area that was previously in a farm ditch. The conservancy we visited, as well as others like it, are slowly starting to bring the mountain bogs back to their former glory. The conservation efforts these groups and individuals are undertaking is admirable. After all, these areas are very important. It is sad when an animal goes extinct, but just imagine an entire biome being eradicated. These areas were so close to having this fate, but thanks to these groups and people, the mountain bogs are safe, at least for the time being.
We would like to thank the Nature Conservancy and Charles for taking their time to help us with this project. Thank you.